what they do, okay? We have like 4 minutes. I'll start a new slide and I'll bring it up next time to start. All right, so this is just a couple of definitions. So we're going to define the Cauchy stress in a rigorous way from geometry, okay? So if we have a body, right, and we're going to apply some forces to that body. And in continuum mechanics, we really just have 2 types of forces. We have surface forces. So these are sort of external forces that are applied to the exterior. We give those a name in continuum mechanics. We call them tractions. Again, these actually, they're surface forces or tractions, and they, just to be clear, they have units of force per unit area. So they're like a stress vector. And then we also have body forces. So if I have a little infinitesimally small cube in the interior of the body, and the most natural one to think of in terms of mechanics is gravity, right? And we have this as a body force, okay? So we'll typically only consider gravity, but if you did electromagnetics, you could also have body forces that arise to any magnetic field in the body that, when you apply current to it, would then generate a force. Right? So if the continuum body had a magnetic polarization, you applied a current to it, it would produce a force. That would also be a body force. All right. And so what we want to do is we're going to take out this little infinitesimal cube, we're going to pull it out of the body, and we're going to stick it on a coordinate system. Yeah. No, because remember, pore pressure, that would be an external force. Remember, pore pressure is applied to the inside of a pore, right? I mean, on the solid skeleton. We'll get into the details of pore mechanics in a few weeks, but right, it's the pressure that the fluid is applying to the solid skeleton, right? And we incorporate it through the constitutive model, really, in like an extra stress that arises, because it's the most convenient way to do it. We're not going to actually mesh up. Well, some people do multi-scale modeling and other things, but pore mechanics is really a mixture theory, right? You sort of assume that every point X is simultaneously occupied by solid and fluid, okay? But in reality, it's the fluid applying external force. And so we're gonna take our little infinitesimal cube and we're going to stick it on a coordinate axis. X1, X2, X3. Right. And on every face, we're going to consider a traction. So this is a traction, right? It's a vector itself, and I'm going to indicate which face it acts on by the little x2, or the, so it's acting on the x2 face, but just to be clear, it's not normal. I think I drew it clear enough, right? It's not normal. Right? So there's a normal vector on that face. It's not, this traction is not normal to that, right? And so, likewise, if we had normal vector in the x3 direction, a normal vector in the x1 direction. So we're going to have tractions that are all vectors themselves, and I indicate which face they act on like this, okay? And so just to be painfully explicit, T is a vector on the x1 face that has components T1, x1, T2, x2, T3, x3. I'm sorry. X1, X1. Right. And my drawing is going to get too busy, but I just want to be clear that, you know, the cube is in equilibrium. So if there's a traction on this face, there's an equal and opposite traction on that face. Right? And if there's a traction on this face, there's a equal and opposite traction on that face. And if there's a traction on that face, there's an equal and opposite traction on that face. Right? So our cube is in equilibrium. And so we'll start with this picture next time.